Hey everybody, welcome back to Chasing Roost. Today I've got Hudson Taylor here with Great Plains XC, and it's been a while since we've done any kind of podcasting. I've only done two. I had better intentions than that, and hopefully we can do some more going forward. But a lot has changed for me in the past year and a half. I'm now a father of two kids, and all the things that go along with that. So trying to keep up with racing, trying to keep up with kids, family, all that stuff. Something's got to give, but hopefully we can devote some time, tell some cool stories this season. But today I've got Hudson here, and I want to kind of recap on our first season of Great Plains XC, and kind of the last time we did this was before you had ever even hosted even your pilot event.
Yeah.
So I want to kind of go through it and just kind of talk about what you learned, some of the things that your eyes were open to, some of the things that you feel like you really executed well. But let's get into it. But first of all, how you doing?
Good, man. Excited to be back. Where I stepped in here to your awesome studio you got, I kind of immediately took me back to that snowy day last year that we got together. And
yeah, there's snow on the ground right now.
There's snow on the ground right now. There's just something about, podcasts with you guys that gets the snow out. So, but yeah, it doesn't feel like it was that long ago. So I'm excited to be here today and to recap a lot of what we talked about originally from a different view.
Yeah, and outside looking in, and I kind of have a little bit of a peek behind the curtain, but I don't work for you. I just kind of am friends with you. I can kind of hang out and talk some behind the scenes stuff. But from what I saw behind the scenes and just as a participant of the season in 2025, it's just like, man, everything just felt like it went super smoothly. I'm sure not everything was super smoothly, but outside looking in, it was like, it felt like you've been doing this for a long time.
No, I appreciate that. That's a nice compliment, and it definitely, on race weekends, there really was not much that went wrong, and all glory to God, right? That's that's by His doing, and I've got to give a huge credit to my team. I mean, I know we'll get into maybe some of the things here in a little bit about that, but it was incredible. Our first year we had an average of just over 300 racers, is kind of what it evened out to. Right around a little bit over 1,000 different participants that came to our races, which is huge to me. First year, 1,000 different racers came and raced with us, which was really cool. And just so many exciting things, looking back from the first ever season, and to see that it went as well as it did was, if you would have asked me that sitting in this chair a year ago, if I'm being perfectly honest, I wasn't sure how it was going to go. We had an idea, and there was a naive confidence there, with it. That now that I look back, I'm just like, man, thankfully everything followed through well. But there was just some things that we were just still figuring out. So it's exciting to see it come full circle. And whenever a plan goes, to plan, it's pretty exciting. So
awesome. Yeah. So, what was your biggest, I'd say, challenge as your first season starting out? We kind of talked about this before last season, but realistically, what are some of the things that just and I didn't realize that was going to be as big to take on as I thought it was going to be.
Well, the most obvious was the weather, right? Which is something we couldn't control. We had, I think, 3 rain reschedules that we had to do, and that was tough. That's something that's kind of outside of our control in the first season that we really, everybody deals with it, right? But
you're going to be dealing with that 20 seasons.
Exactly. That's always going to be an issue. I would say one of the issues that we had to overcome quickly is just the difference in who we are and what we are doing versus what people are used to here. And that can be as simple as the numbering system. There's people that have questions about that. The scheduling, as far as switching days, and now we're going to a more traditional schedule, which is cool. But, starting off, there was quite a few questions around that, just preseason or even leading into the races. And so just a lot of different, small things that we were able to overcome. But, whenever you start something new, you got to think about it. People come up and ask you 100 times what color the arrows are, even though they're posted right in front of the registration trailer. And so just little things like that, really, that, for me, one of the things that I learned is I might know all of it, but just because I know all of it, I have to learn how to get that out to the general public in a way that's very just easy to understand, easy to read. And, so maybe that required more banner, more signage, more arrows, whatever the case may be, is just, learning the levels of, communication that I needed to have with our people more than anything.
Yeah, it's from the outside looking in, it looked like you had really been extremely thoughtful on the front end. So that way, like, you were over prepared.
Yeah.
That way things went better. But there are always the things like, well, we've been doing it, especially in our region.
Yeah.
We've been racing the same series for decades.
Yeah.
And so it took me, especially the first few races, to realize that the arrows give you some extra leeway.
Yeah.
It's like, you can go hit that line. It's fine. No big deal. You're not going to get penalized for it. It's great.
Yeah.
That's wonderful. Definitely, like on the preseason race, there was a few arrows like that. And I was like, man, that is a way better line that I can actually take now.
Yeah.
So some things like that, and also just the whole new system. Because if you've never run a GNCC or another series or this series before, like the lining up, that was just a different system. And it works great, works just fine. It's just different. So you go to the line, and it's like the riders' meeting is being told to you as you're there. It's pretty seamless, but at first you're like, man, what am I doing?
Yeah.
But it walks you through it if you just slow down and listen.
Yeah, if you just listen to what's there and look at it, it's there. But, for me, that was probably one of the biggest things is, it's kind of like herding cats, right? I mean, at first, But once we got like 2-3 rounds in, it really just became a well-oiled machine to where, we really weren't dealing with too many issues after that. I mean, I'll be honest, the biggest issues on my side personally more so were just running out of hours, to prep things. I mean, this isn't my only job, I got other things I do too. And, building the tracks was a lot of work. I've learned how to become much more efficient at that. The first race that we ever had, a lot of people might not know it, but, I mean, that winter freeze storm that we had before, it pushed us on our, kind of on our heels leading into that weekend, to where we had a lot of the track laid out and ready, but there was no arrows, there was no banner up because we had to wait until the snow. And, we were out until late at night, getting the track arrow the night before the first race. It was a terrible feeling, but it was just one of those things. Now that I know what I know, not that I know everything by any means, but it really helped us have a better understanding of like, okay, tracks need to be done by Thursday, like that's just a given. Like, and there's different things like that I think they're pretty obvious, once you just start looking at it, and we're able to, they're easy fixes, you just kind of adjust and overcome. And so, yeah, lots of good, challenges that we were able to adapt and overcome early on, and lessons learned. And that won't stop from, just from the first year. There's going to be things we continue to need to learn moving forward, and we're always wanting to adapt and overcome them.
What are some of the, like, those key moments that you're like, that needs to change?
Yeah, so you mentioned the test race earlier. Honestly, that race was a huge wake-up call to me.
That was the best thing, foresight that I think you could have possibly done.
I don't think that the season would have gone as well as it is, and I'm just being transparent, right? Like, I mean, we went into that event, and I think people had so much grace with us because they knew it was a test race, and it's not like it went bad, right? But one thing we learned immediately is it was cold that morning, and we left the computers in the registration trailer overnight. They're sitting right by the window. Computers freeze up. And whenever it's cold,
literally
and
freeze.
so it's like literally you need to take the computers inside with you at night where they're warm and bring them out. And so it delayed our registration process by 30 minutes.
I didn't know what that was about.
And the computers were quite literally frozen, and so it's like, oh my gosh, like we would have dropped the ball on that the first morning of the first race. And, we had delayed our schedule 30 minutes after that, even though it was just a test event. But that hurt me. I was just like, oh man, like right away. And everybody's standing in line, and, it was good. Everybody was visiting, having fun. But to me, I learned that there were several other things just with my leadership that needed to be adjusted. I wasn't doing a good job of communicating clearly with my staff, even though it was a test event. We learned some crucial things. And, Taylor and I, that night, we just laid in bed and we were like, what did we just get ourselves into, and thankfully this is where my team really came together. It was like, they were like, hey, this was good and there's great potential here, but let's come together. And, so I pulled everybody together, and we did 3 Zoom meetings, that week actually following that up. And I think I probably wore my team out, but we just went through 3 different categories of things that needed to be adjusted immediately, from registration to scoring to communication. And we were able to have those conversations and come up with solutions pretty quickly. And, So that was like a big eye opener for me,
Yeah.
really. And I think if it wasn't for that, we would have had that at the first race,
Yeah.
where that first race really went seamless. Every
It
race
did.
started on the minute. We can't control the weather, right? It was cold. The ground was frozen Saturday morning.
was
but
sketchy.
It was sketchy, but everything that was in our control went so well. And I believe it was because, we had a team that was dedicated towards, a vision and they understood it. And so that's one of the biggest moments that stood out to me, just as an eye opener. Another one is Conowall, Gearhead Run,
Oh, man.
Roy Gearhart's place.
Yes.
A heartbreaker in some ways, right? That property is just phenomenal, and
Those are one shot too.
but yeah, and so kind of Roy to open his place up to us, and practice was amazing
So
for the
good.
bikes. I
Oh
mean,
my
it was so
goodness.
good. Like I was just
So
like,
good.
Lord, please, allow the rain to hold off, and it didn't, and that was a mud run right away. But the biggest moment looking back in the season to me was after that PM bike race. The track was destroyed. I mean, and when you look at running quads after bikes, that age-old debate, right? I tried to ride my quad around the track and couldn't get around it because I kept, getting one wheel in, couldn't get down, even with a four-wheel drive, four-wheeler. And man, I looked at ways to reroute and do different things. And at this point, we had gotten 4 or 5 inches of rain in a matter of 10 hours, and I was defeated. It was 40 degrees outside. It's pouring rain. It's getting dark. And I was riding around the property trying to figure out how I could reroute things for Sunday's race schedule for the quads. And I had given up. Like I was pulling up to the front to my staff and be like, hey, we've got to call off the next day. It can't happen. And I pull up and a group of quad riders are sitting there in their rain gear on their four-wheelers that they're going to use to race the next day. And they're like, what do we do? And I'm just like, man, we got to call it off. They're like, nope, we're not going to let you do that. Like, we want to see this succeed. We want to help you. And that was just a cool moment for me. It gives me goosebumps still to think that like people were that motivated to help. And those guys, they backed it up. They went out there and they worked in the dark, laying out. We built a completely new track for the quads the next day.
Yeah.
They're like, we don't care if it's a 2-3 mile track. Let's race. And there was a couple of those guys. I'm going to forget their names. Some of them, I'm sure, those moments get cloudy. But Ryan Smith, Dylan Youngblood, Josh Winery, Kellen Buchanan, all of that crew. They were there whenever we needed it. And for me, that was a big bonding moment of like, you got the quad versus bike world.
It was us. Not
we saw an us
them.
world come together there, and that was established early on within the series, which made such a huge difference going into the rest of the year. And so. It's very humbling whenever you see people that have your back, even in like those lowest moments, where you're just like, what did I get myself into, and it was awesome.
So what are some of the changes that we're bringing into 2020? Actually, let me back up a little bit. You mentioned Conowall was awesome during practice.
Yeah.
It was so good.
It was amazing.
It was amazing during practice. But what were some of your highlight tracks for the year?
Conowall would have been for sure. Yeah, it would have been. That layout was awesome. Honestly, Hollam's Landing really stands out to me.
That was a fun track.
Just a national level feel of a property. The parking was big and open. The track was really good. Conditions for that track I know is a little dusty in places, but overall it was great.
It was good.
And it had some challenges too with some creek crossings, and so it added some factors to it of keeping you on your toes as a racer. Another one that stands out and was the favorite track of the year for our racers was Whitetail Ridge.
I had to miss that one.
Okay, so you missed out on the best one in my opinion.
Man.
All of them were great, but that one, man, 1,100 acre high fence hunting ranch property, beautiful scenery, for the setting of it, and a virgin track. I think we ended up at like an 8 mile track, and it was awesome. So, everything you could ask for from rocks and elevation change and good dirt, slick dirt, everything you could want. So, then Elk City, that's another one.
I didn't get to go to that one either.
So you missed a couple of the really good ones, the two that you missed. people liked that one. It was a little bit of a mixed bag, right?
I watched the videos. I was surprised how much track you got out of that for how little property there was.
For 147 acres, we squeezed every bit out of it that we could. But Mason, the owner of Elk City, there, he was super supportive and loved to see it. And he'd been over backwards for us to help do what we needed. We had the sprint car track in it, which was a little marbly, but it'd been sitting for a while. But just the Grand Prix style feel of that race with having motocross and a speedway and so much grass track and then some really good woods too was a unique thing, which we hope to revisit that one day. They definitely would like to see us back. We're just, in that growth stage where we want to kind of test some new things.
Sure.
So those are kind of the three that stand out for sure.
That's cool. I did fairly well, but my favorite one I think was it was on the border of Oklahoma and Texas. What was that one called? It was kind of up on the hill, rained a little bit in the morning.
Oh, goodness.
Right before summer break.
Outlaw Pass.
That one was sweet.
Yeah.
Are we going back?
Yeah. So that's really cool, actually. Not only are we going back there, but we also got access to the 800 acres to the other side that we've never raced as well. And so we're having two separate events. We'll have Outlaw Pass, but Rattlesnake Ridge is the new property. It's about a mile down the road, still connected to the same piece of land, but it'll be different parking. They actually have like probably 10-acre lake in front of it with some good parking there. And that side's phenomenal. Everybody was talking about how they liked the top section, with all the, blackjack oaks and stuff in the sand.
Good. Yeah.
Well, that's what the whole 800 acres is over next door. So you just better get ready for that.
Yeah,
so,
man.
that was a good one. Outlaw Pass was a fan favorite too.
That was a fun one. So what are some of the things that we're changing up for 2026?
A lot. We've got, we're switching days. We're doing bikes on Sunday now, kind of more traditional GNCC style. And we're excited to see that change. I'd be interested to hear your take on this too, but some of the things that we ran into from our racers, at least on the bike side, was that, where you get into kind of the springtime with the undergrowth and stuff, it becomes very difficult, to get all of that cleared out of the way without the quads. And I think that maybe bike riders underappreciate what the quads do in some circumstances. And so, you might be able to speak more on it, but I heard a lot of feedback from riders that they really actually would enjoy maybe the quads cleaning some of that stuff out of the way.
I need to clear something up here. I need to admit when I'm wrong and be bold enough to do it. So in the past, as you know, and as our previous podcast was, I am traditionally a hater of quads. After racing several races where the track was not burned in by quads, I was like, you know what? I actually like, and then also being on some tracks that had been on quads in the past, that are tracks that have been burned in. Like, I perform better on a track that has been run by quads. I don't know if that's just me because the way that I've always raced tracks that have been quads first. Or what. Like, I do enjoy some single track, but overall I perform better on a track that's been ridden by quads first. Maybe just because it's more beat in and I kind of know where I'm going. But so I do have to take that back. I'm still not a lover of deep quad ruts in sand.
No.
But I take it back. I am happy to race on Sunday after the quads. I'm good with it.
And I'll continue down that road a little bit because people saw that right away, and there's going to be people that like it or not, we're not going to be able to please everybody, but we do have some steps that we're taking to overcome the quad ruts. So for instance, on the properties that have the deeper loamy sand, they're larger properties now. So I've got a lot of opportunities. I've been working all throughout the winter cutting track already. So with these properties where we do have, that's more sandy soil, there's going to be a lot of bike only stuff that separates it. I'm not going to say it's going to be 100% separate track, but a large portion is going to be bike only because I get it as a bike rider too. You don't like the where you're having to rut hop, the two whenever it's real sandy. And so that's one thing we're doing. We've also got access to skid steer this year, which is huge. Last year I rented one several times. We have access to several skid steers actually. So that's going to really help too. I'm not afraid to work late at night after Saturdays, and re-prep the track for guys where we can get to those areas and fix a lot of maybe what's there. So, our goal with this is to make it as much fun for everyone as we can. From listening to the feedback, that was one of the things that we took and we grabbed onto, and I think that we can put our own little touch on it and maybe make it even better than what people have experienced in the area through a traditional schedule.
Yeah. One of the other things that I heard, when you first kind of started putting that out there, hey, what if we switched it over, trying to put that feeler out there, which my first thing I said is stop asking for people's recommendations.
Yeah.
But that's the endearing thing about you, is that you do care about the members and what they want, because that ultimately helps everybody. But what I was getting at was that a lot of the Texas racers were like, man, I'd come up more if I could hit on Sundays, just the way it works out for schedules.
Yeah. A lot of people, they work on Saturdays. I kind of underestimated that, and we were killing the majority by moving, like the majority is the bikes, right? We were kind of killing that off because they worked at dealerships or they just had jobs where they had to work on Saturdays. And so, hey, you know what? It's the cool thing about what we're doing is if it doesn't work and it's not a good fit, we can switch it again, but we're not going to be finicky with moving it back and forth. We're going to run a whole season one way because people make commitments to that. But at the end of the day, it's a change I'm excited to see. And, there's a reason that GNCC and these larger series, they do it that way, and it makes sense from a promoter standpoint now that I see it a little bit differently as far as the way that I'm going to be setting things up and laying out the track and the amount of work that I have to do leading into the weekend. That changes whenever, it's swapped the way it is. So, if you're on the fence about it, please come back, check it out again. Don't let it be something that stops you because, at the end of the day, we're putting a ton of work into this and we're going to make sure that we do it right. That's the biggest thing that I can say is, just come check it out again. We're adding on, we're expanding, in a lot of ways with our equipment, with our staff, and, we're going to continue to grow. This is not, we've not reached the pinnacle of where we want to be.
And like you said, I think it's strategically, the whole weekend kind of flows, I think, a little bit better. And now we've seen what the quads go through. They got to show up there on Friday night. Yeah, but they're used to it.
Yeah, they're set up for it, right? And another thing too that I heard time and time again from our bike guys specifically is just kind of like there was a little bit of a lack of seat time for them. Is one of the things. And
I'm fine with 2 hours.
I'll be a proponent for it. I'm not a fan of practice after living on the East Coast. I really don't like it. I don't like what it does to the tracks and all those things. And like I said, we've got ways to overcome that now. I'll fix that with the skid steer. But one of the big things that's going to be nice about this for bike guys specifically is they're going to have practice in the afternoon, and they also have the opportunity to that sprint race on Saturday. So you can really make a full weekend out of it for the weekend warriors or the people that have kids and this is their only availability to get seat time in. We try to make it as effective as we can to where, a family can, each rider, if they run a sprint race, they do practice and they race, you can ride for up to 5 to 6 hours in a weekend. Like that's more than what,
that's a
lot. for as little as, if you're a $10 gate fee per person and $45 for a race entry, they're in it for
You're not going to get better value
$60 for 5 to 6 hours of riding. On a closed mark course, we feel that value is worthwhile for sure.
And the experience, they get to camp, hang out, you get to have the full weekend experience where I feel like for me, that was something I was missing. It was in some ways kind of nice where you just drive in there, you get up, you do your thing, you go home. But I definitely did miss, it's not a weekend experience. Unless you intentionally try to make it, but then you don't really have a whole lot to stay for the next day. This way you do have something to stay for, which is cool.
And that goes back to one of our mission statements, I guess you could say, or one of our main visions with this is making it a family-friendly series. It was one of the things that we were kind of seeing that was choking it out in some ways is bike guys were going home and it was kind of a ghost town in the pits until Sunday morning where the quads would roll in. And so this way it's going to keep families more, engaged throughout the entire weekend. And
they'll still probably show up on Friday.
But
now they're going to go home on Sunday. Everybody.
And that's another thing too. We're moving our schedule to where, love it or hate it, we're removing practice on Sunday morning, which is not a big deal because that's typically only about a 30-minute period anyway. So we're pushing our schedule earlier in the morning now to where we can start at 8 a.m. and we can be done with our PM bikes a little bit earlier. We're going to start them about 1 or 1:30. So that's going to get everybody on the road, an hour, 2 hours earlier, which will be handy for people that are traveling on Sundays. And so we're trying to be attentive to what people are their feedback that they're giving us. One of the things that my wife and I have discussed is like, early on we were like, oh, well, let's get everybody's opinion, and we're going to try to please everybody, right? Just with the naive.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Don't try that.
Don't try that. But and like, we want to remain humble and teachable in what we're doing and listening to people, but also understanding that, hey, we can't please everybody. And there's going to be people that it doesn't work with their schedules. And you know what? That's okay, because at the end of the day, we have a very clear vision of where we want to go with this. And I'm excited for this year because it's like a total step in that direction.
Yeah.
And I think people are going to love it.
Yeah, I mean, totally. We've got the schedule change, which I think, I don't want to say puts you back on track, but I think is a good direction change. But something else that I'm excited for is we've got some other states now.
Yeah. One other state now. Yeah, we hope to get in there 2 to 3 times down in Texas. We had a little bit of difficulty. I'm not going to lie, getting into Texas. It is the hardest part of my job, is getting the schedules lined out. But yeah, we do have one race in Texas. It's a little bit of a haul, headed down a little bit further than what we originally planned. But man, I'm excited about it. It's a national level property. I mean, the parking is incredible in it.
Is that the one Gutbuster was at?
No, it's not where Gutbuster's at. So this is actually a property that is a little bit southeast of there, Kilgore, Texas, just east of Tyler, Texas, if my geography is right. But man, it's awesome. It's got elevation change. It's got quite a bit of different soil types there as well. It's got some pine trees, which is pretty cool.
That.
Big, tall pine trees to race in. You don't get to race that. And the cool thing that was the deciding factor about it for me was, not only does it meet our standard of a national level property, because we looked at several places in northern Texas, and honestly, they were just too small. Like, under 100 acre property, some of them were 100 and less acres. Is like, we can't pull off what we want to do there. Yeah. So one of the coolest factors about the Kilgore property, which is Coyote Crossing, for anybody that's looking at our schedule, that's going to be our third round, is it's only, I say only, this sounds bad. It's 4.5 hours from whether you're looking at Lawton, which is kind of where some racers come from, Oklahoma City, or Tulsa, because you come straight down it.
You're probably pretty close to Louisiana, too.
It is close to Louisiana. So, if it was something where we were pushing 5-6 hours from these core bases of like the Lawton, the Oklahoma City, or the Tulsa area, we would reconsider. But 4.5 hours, that's really pretty manageable,
dude.
And it's just a straight shot down the interstate for all those people groups. We know people are coming from more areas than that, but
that's really thoughtful, though. I mean, to consider, like, it is out of the way, but where I came from, it was 4 or 5 hours to races in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
Before,
absolutely.
So
I mean, if you look at the map, it's actually not any further than Veneta for most people, or Frederick Lake for some people, at the far corners of the state. So, it's like, really, I think it was the best bang for our buck in a lot of ways, of being able to stay within our core range that we're shooting for, at least this early stages, and still get in a cool different property that's going to bring in a lot of different competition. Yeah. It's an NRA qualifier, which we're really excited about. It's the only one in the state of Texas. So that's something else that's pretty cool to me, to have that. And then when you look at the whole schedule, I don't know, how much you've had a chance to look at it, but 7 new venues, that's a lot.
That's a lot to bite off.
Yeah, it's a lot to bite off, 4 of which are fresh cut properties. So, as a racer, I always love seeing new properties on the list. And
plus, for the racer side, getting new property, it's not just getting a chance to see a place. It's like, I'm bummed that I didn't get to race the place that I loved last year. But maybe in a few years, you get to go race there again, and it's just as good as it was last time. Yeah. Versus if you race that track every year, and maybe if there's more than one club racing it every year, it gets so beat up that you can only sustainably do that a couple times.
It does. Yeah, absolutely. Thankfully, we're still going back to Whitetail Ridge and Outlaw Pass, so you're going to get to check out both of those.
But they're big enough properties that you can work with.
Yep, they're big enough properties. We got plenty to work with there on both of them. So
So one of the other things that has really excited me about in 2025, and then I'm excited about in 2026, and then just moving forward, is the level of competition has really increased. Your series is drawing people in from other states. They're reactivating people that maybe would have preferred not to race or whatever, and just getting people back out racing again. But there's no secret that the guys in Texas are blazing fast.
Yeah.
And the level of competition up there over the past however long has just been really good. And getting those guys coming up here, seeing them, I mean, we only had one Oklahoma and win the overall this year.
Yeah.
And that's not a slight to us. I mean, he worked his butt off. He raced hard that day.
Yeah.
They all raced hard. But I'm seeing that those guys are still stoked because, I mean, no one's stoked to get their tail kicked,
Yeah.
right? But they're excited to race that level of competition because it's bringing them up to that too. You know, it's hard to do that, and they're willing to rise to the occasion. And I see myself in the same way. I've never been really an expert level rider. I still don't consider myself as the top dog in my class of the plus 30A class, but there's something to reach for. And I actually clicked off a win this year. I was super pumped. I was stoked about that. And not before that, I was just like trying to get podiums.
Yeah.
Or trying to get top 5, and then I clicked a good one out that day. But
that was a big win too. You had a stacked class that day.
I was pumped.
Yeah.
I was so pumped. But getting to do that with that level where now it's like you've got to be on your game to even run with the guys.
Yeah.
To not just get dropped by minutes, you know, like you've got to be riding your hardest. You've got to do all the things right. You got to pit right. You got to fuel your body right. You've got to have the right energy, the right strategy the whole time to just be in the pack. It's a whole lot to take on, which is just raising the bar for our series, our region.
Yeah.
And to have that coming into our region, you know, give it a few years, I'm excited to see where we're headed with that.
Yeah, it excites me, you noticing that and talking about it from a racer standpoint, right? Because I see it as a promoter for sure. And it goes back to what we talked about last year with the question you asked of, you know, like, are pros important? And don't get me wrong, as a promoter, I lose money over the pros, right? Like I want to see all levels at our races. But the cool thing is that the pros really carry something. They carry a heavy weight towards the rest of the region. In the sense that they set the standard of what fast is, like we talked about. And so, to hear it kind of starting to trickle down into these classes, which you're still in the A class, you know, but it's trickling down to these other classes. And
we see it in the minis.
You see it in the minis. Yeah, you see it in every level. And, you know, that's one of the reasons we want to expand into these other states is because we want to draw racers from Texas and all these surrounding states. And, you know, we do want to be primarily Oklahoma based. This is where I'm from and this is where my roots are. But, you know, to see this many, we had 14 different states compete with us this year. I actually believe it was more than that. We had 14 at the first race alone. So with that being said, you know, we had people traveling from all over to come do these. Maybe they just hit one or two, right? But it's pretty cool to see what's in the future for this. Yeah. And one of the things too that we did hear some criticism on that we are working towards achieving this year is I do have a bumps committee, I guess you could say, or promotions committee, because it was a lot to handle in the first year, right? Sure. Like we had so many people in and out. I have no data to go off of, right?
The classes are named different things.
Yeah, and I have no data before now to go off of. And so looking into this year, we're revising that and looking at like, okay, you know, there's a couple of guys there that were probably, you know, competitive in another class. And so we're going to
you're not a 50C rider, you're a 50A rider.
Exactly. And so we're going to bump them up to that class. And so, you know, though you might be sitting here and listening to this and going, oh man, they're the most competitive, like we do have a class for everybody still. And we're not just in this for the elite of the elite.
Yeah,
we're also in this for every skill level. And we've got some ways to overcome those I wouldn't call them issues, those great things that we have coming where we have higher levels of competition, where it kind of takes it off my plate and I can have a couple guys fully committed to looking that over
unbiased eyes,
with unbiased eyes, you know, and somebody else can be making that decision for me. And obviously I give it the stamp of approval, but it's something we're excited for this year, you know, is not only the raised level of competition, but also making sure that there is fairness in every class. So,
yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong. I want to go out there and I want to race for a podium.
Yeah.
But if it's just like I can go out there and cruise and get a podium, like I would rather race my butt off for 8th place and leave with, you know, maybe a little bit of feeling of defeat that I wasn't a top guy. I know I'm not a top guy nationally. I can be kind of a decent guy locally, but I get more of a feeling of accomplishment if I had a tire-to-tire battle with a guy for 3 laps. I have those memories are more fun than the memories when I've won, you know? So having that healthy competition, even if you're in the A class, B class, C class, you know, it doesn't matter. And then to your point, promotions or whatever we call them, promotions, whatever. It is what it is. Like, man, that you can't be a healthy organization if you don't do that. You got to do it well. You got to be thoughtful about it. You got to be diplomatic about it and use your head. But, you know, you have to be able to move these people around for their own sake. You know, some people do want to just go out there and win, and they don't care if they're in the wrong class to do it.
Yeah, and that's one of those things, like, it's definitely a key takeaway for me for last season, right? It's one way that we can improve on. The several racers had reached out and respectfully, you know, shared that. And so definitely one of the things we're planning on improving. I think that my mindset with it might be slightly different than most promoters. I see the pendulum swing both ways, right? Of like not enough versus way too much moving people. And then you discourage them the other way too. You know, for instance, I had a guy reach out to me early in the season that wanted to bump down from a class, and I reviewed his times, and though he was at the back of his class, he would have been stomping everybody else. But I was looking at his lap times, and he really was not more than about 4.5 minutes off of the leader by the end of the race. And don't get me wrong, that sounds like a lot.
Over 2 hours.
But over 2 hours, you know, that's actually not that much if you break it down into maybe per lap or half a lap, or and then you break it into per corner. You know, it's a 1/10 of a second here and a 1/10 of a second there. And so I had this conversation with
practice some braking drills, you'll get there.
Yeah, exactly. And so, you know, I guess for me, after racing in pro class for so long, there was nowhere to bump up to after that. And so I would see the 5-minute deficit that I might have been losing from, and I was like, I got to find a way to go out and overcome that. And I saw time and time again that was possible to overcome, you know, a 3-4 minute deficit. Don't get me wrong, that's not always the case. But the cool thing was with this guy I was talking to, I shared with him, you know, hey, I actually think you can overcome that. By the end of the season, I got a message from him. I don't get a chance to look at the results every time. And he messaged me, it's just like, dude, I just got to tell you, thank you for not bumping me. He was like, today I had the best race of my life. I overcame that 3.5 minute deficit or 4 minute deficit, whatever it was at the beginning of the season, and I won my class today.
Dude, that's
you know, it's
awesome.
like that's the kind of stuff to me that excites me. And it doesn't mean that that's always going to be the case for everybody, right? But it is something where the mentality, I hope, changes a little bit, and our racers can begin to adopt that mindset that maybe sometimes the reason that we're leaving somebody in a class is not because we're just buddies with them and we want to see them win, but because maybe that's the level that class can be towards. And if we see it being a possibility, then, you know, hey, we're gonna reevaluate. Obviously, we want to keep things fair and competitive, though.
Totally. And again, just, you know, everybody wants to win. But and maybe my motivation's different. Like, I want to have fun. And a little sidebar to this is I don't necessarily always have fun when I'm racing. It's like on the way home, I'm like, I just did something really cool that most people can't do. But for me, it's like just opening up potential. You know, like I said, I've been kind of a mid-pack, mid-class kind of guy my whole life. So whenever I have the opportunity to do well, that's awesome. But I wouldn't be at this level if I hadn't pushed up to the next level. I've never been one to just stay in a class and just win the class and win the class and win the class. Where I could bump back down a class and just be the guy. Which would feel cool. But knowing that this could happen, you can reach that level. You don't think you can. Like, I don't know how a pro rider goes as fast as they do. I cannot fathom that. At the same point, me 10 years ago couldn't fathom I go as fast as I do now. Like, it's just a natural progression. I don't think it's like one of those things that just clicks. Some people probably, you've always been like, I'm just fast. But like, it's just like a natural progression. But if you don't push yourself to that, if you don't move that bar, you're always gonna be stuck there with that bar.
And I think that it happens in such a natural way that we might have key highlights where we can see it, but most of the time we don't. And for me, a lot of those times looking back where I did gain a new level was typically because I latched onto somebody that was faster than me and I learned from them. and I might not have beat them. They still might have beat me by several minutes.
Mm-hmm.
But what happened from that was I latched onto them. I gained the confidence to understand like, oh, I can go as fast as so-and-so for a period of time. And I noticed that they were doing this instead of this. And so, yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, right? Like everybody's at a different level and you know, it's cool to see people growing to that next level that they desire. So yeah, it's pretty awesome.
So moving into 2026, what are some of the things that, I mean, we've kind of talked about the changes, but what are some of the things that really you're pumped about in 2026 and moving forward beyond that?
You know, all of our properties in the first year were awesome. I think the thing that I'm the most excited about though for this year, well, I shouldn't say that. There's a lot of things I'm really excited about. One of the things on that list would be just the level of properties that we have now. You know, with these new venues, I've got a certain feel that I believe people are starting to grasp and understand of like, you know, all the signage and the banners and, you know, the big starting pad with, you know, 2 or 3 corners at least before going into the woods and all these things that make just things a little bit better, right? And the tracks are a little bit better and they're more opened up as far as like not as many tight turns to cram a property in. You know, the level of properties that we have truly are starting to match more of a national level feel to me, which is really exciting. Obviously, going into Texas is a huge thing to me. Being close to the Texas border for several races, we have one venue that is on the Red River. Like we race right down on the Red River on the Oklahoma side. It'll be the Red River Shootout right before summer break. Things like that are really exciting. We've got some stuff on the back end that as, you know, the day-to-day grind of things that are changing. We've got some new equipment that we're really excited about. Things that probably won't excite anybody else but me, but you know, it makes my job a little bit easier. Yeah, like, you know, things like that. You know, we do have a new registration building coming together that's really exciting. And, you know, for instance, I mean, just cutting down on my trips, I take 5 loads of equipment to each race. Dude. That's 5 trips there, 5 trips back. With our new system that we have, our new build out, so to speak, we cut that down to 2, you know, and it's like, man, I've just saved 40 hours of my life, you know, right there in drive time. So, adding some more staff is exciting, you know, lots of things there. You know, the contingency programs that we have this year are really awesome for the racers. If we're looking at the racer standpoint of this, we've got KTM on board. We've got
awesome.
Gas Husqvarna. Yeah, exactly.
Ajax Motorsports.
There you go. You know, those things are exciting. We've got Rocky Mountain ATVMC. They've now upped it to $15 for every race entry for every racer. That's a big deal. That's a pretty cool deal, you know? And so things like that are cool. Obviously, our sponsors, we've got some incredible sponsors. You just mentioned Ajax Motorsports. We're thankful to have them back on as our title sponsor once again. Just the whole crew there. Those guys showed up and showed out every single race with a full, you know, setup on vendor row. They provided, you know, goggles and different things that riders may need. And, you know, Mason and that whole crew, Traven, Junior, Brian, you guys are all awesome. Justin, all that you guys do for the racing community, we're stoked to have them back for our racers because that makes a difference at the end of the day. You know, and the list goes on and on of just small little exciting tweaks that we're making. We do have Rodney Tomlin coming back, our announcer.
That was a cool thing. I wasn't expecting that. I've never been around anything like that, but like that just kind of was like another brick in the wall. It's like up that level. You know? That's pretty cool.
And as crazy as it sounds, I'm already working on 27's schedule. So there's some really big things with that too. We obviously want to see how things go with our expansion out of state this year, but there's a lot of cool things already, you know, that are going to make a difference this year that drive us towards next year that really are just so much growth. It's exciting, you know, and a lot of momentum. You know, I mean, last year we had right at 600 number reservations by the end of a month and a half of it being open. So like 6 weeks, we had over 100 within the first 10 minutes. We're well over 150 number reservations after only being open for 2 weeks now. So we know that the excitement's building. That's something that is, you know, very rewarding for us putting in the work on the back end. And so just, I keep saying lots of, you know, exciting things, but it's exciting. So.
And the beginning of the season is always exciting.
Round 1, that property, there's a lot of like mystery going around where that's at because I keep, you know, hinting to the fact that it's in downtown Oklahoma City, basically, near downtown. And that property is so awesome. Like
Yeah.
we are so excited to be at that venue. It's got elevation change, which is kind of crazy. Where you mentioned river bottom land and elevation change, but it does. It's got some cool hill climbs, and the dirt is just all time. Fresh cut property, brand new. It's awesome.
Yeah, I'm stoked for it. Now you mentioned like sponsors and things like that, and I know that's a conversation that we've had in the background. How has it been this year having those conversations now that you have proof of concept? You've done it.
Yeah.
You're not just, hey, come support this thing. I think I can do it. How has that been for you?
Awesome. It's been one of the most rewarding parts to me because, it took a lot of faith with our sponsors the first year to back us without ever seeing what I was telling them. And then to hear from them whenever I revisit them, that was more than what we even thought we were getting out of the deal, And so I want to say we may have two that weren't able to re-up just because of maybe some personal reasons or some things going on in life, but they all shared pretty, clearly that they were very happy with what we were doing. And so not only have we re-upped the majority of our sponsors that we have, but it's really opened some door for some other sponsorships and on down the road, some corporate level businesses that we're already in conversation with for the future that will make a big difference for our racers. I mean, some really big, awesome, sponsors moving forward, I think. So that program is continuing to evolve. We're finding a lot of ways that we can market things in a unique way that's not just slapping a logo, on signage or banner or making a Facebook post, but, really making sure that those sponsors have a place, and that they're recognized and understood what they are. And then, from the racer standpoint too, of being able to utilize those sponsors and to support those that support us, as we say, it makes a difference, and it's something that we're excited to continue to develop and to grow and to improve on that.
Yeah, and I think what you just touched on, like, I feel like what you do to give those sponsors what they're paid for is far and beyond what I've seen really anywhere else. You really bend over backwards to make sure that they're getting what they're paying for. It's not just a thanks for your money, see you next year. It's like it's hard work putting out the banners, and so many banners go up. It's hard work doing that. And that's kind of the part that people don't see is like when you take on the obligation to get a sponsor or advertiser or whatever, now you have that continuing obligation to do that.
Yeah.
You're thank you for the money, but now you're adding to your workload every time you do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
So it gets increasingly more difficult because now you have more obligations. It's worth it, hopefully, for both parties. But yeah, it definitely gets increasingly more difficult to have that. But it feeds off of each other because like the series, I know you have to have those to be able to do it financially. But also the series looks more legit too. Yeah. Because of it.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
then because the series looks more legit, now you get more sponsors. So it goes back and forth.
Yeah, exactly. And that's something that we really take great pride in, right? Is I don't value a dollar lightly, in the sense that they are giving us their hard-earned dollars to then go out and reproduce more opportunities for them for business, and we know that a lot of people do it out of the goodness of their heart, right? Like they want to support it, and that's part of it. But at the end of the day, I take it seriously enough that I want them to see a return on investment in it. And so some of the cool things for the racers that are happening this year is, with these sponsors, we have an FMF fan zone that's going to be at every race.
Oh, no way.
It's basically, a certain port. And we kind of teased this at our last race of the season. We had a high traffic area where the track looped in closely on each other and had some obstacles there. And that's going to be decked out in FMF, banner and canopy. And we're going to get a big inflatable this year from them.
Oh, cool.
So it's going to have more of a national look to it too. But it's going to be an area where fans can congregate and hang out in the shade, or there might even be some water there from time to time and some drinks for them and stuff to hang out and watch their favorite racer, in a unique section of the course. We've got TJ Cycles out of Austin coming on board with us this year. They have a
cool.
photo section. So, on the backside of the trees, the racers will never see it.
I love that.
But on the backsides of the trees, we'll have a photographer and their logo will be presented.
You know what they need to have?
What's that?
And maybe they do have this, but like have a sign 2 corners ahead
there
saying,
you go.
2 corners, there's a photographer.
Elbows up.
You have to have that because you know what it's like whenever you're like, I look like a goon right there. I have to give you a thumbs up just so it looks like I'm not trying.
Yep, exactly. That's a good idea. We're going to have to do that. Because not only is it going to be good for the racer, but it's going to bring a smile to their face.
And it's going to be better for the photographer because you're going to get better photos.
They're going to have good pictures.
It's a win-win.
Things like that. We've got, Energy Transfer, which is a large company here in Oklahoma. They came back on board this year, and they're going to be our title sponsor for our pre-race show that happens every Wednesday evening before races. Okay. And so, different things like that we're able to take and attach a name to it now and really show a value of like, hey, this is what your company is presenting. It's providing this opportunity, and the racers benefit from that is the fact that they do have an area that's really cool for them to ride through and get sweet pictures, and that they have. They can tell their family, they don't have to say, walk over by this tree. They can say, go to the FMF fan zone, and it'll be marked and bannered. And it's going to most of the time be the coolest part of the track, where they can see some action stuff happen. And then, the Helios Whole Shot Award this year, rebranding that a little bit. But there's going to be some really cool Whole Shot Awards coming out of that for multiple classes every single race.
I'll never get one, but that sounds cool.
And then... we also have the TJ Cycles Hard Charger Award. So that's going to be something cool. Where maybe the most passes out of a given weekend, somebody's going to get a pretty cool gift certificate out of that. And
you can track that through the system.
Yeah, we can track that. Yep, exactly. Progress. So that person will receive that as well. And so all of these things are ultimately with the end goal of, adding excitement and some value to our racers as well. Yeah. That gives back to them. And so that's a couple of the big changes that are taking place on the sponsorship side.
I'm stoked about that.
Yeah,
that got me excited.
Yeah, exactly.
So, and I know full and well I'm never going to get any of those, but it's cool to just have that engagement where, with especially the hard charger thing is kind of a cool thing because now you get to see something into whatever's happening because otherwise you'd have to dig through all this stuff Barron just went from back here to out. Now he's right up here with these guys, some cool stuff like that.
And it helps the racer that maybe started their day on the wrong foot, right? Like they had a bad first lap and they're in 8th, 9th, 10th, 15th place. Well, you might not be able to get to the podium that day, but you could go for the Hard Charger Award where you're getting the most passes out of anybody for the day.
Yeah.
And that just completely relights a fire under that racer that, started off on the wrong foot and had the bad first lap. Now it adds a little bit of something to him. And I know not everybody's going to think that way, but for us, it's the small things like that that we're really trying to be intentional about and make it a fun experience for everyone.
Something else that I've always thought was really neat about what you've done at just about every round that you can is you've been really intentional about giving the spectators directions on where to get to points of interest. You've made maps when you can, that type of thing, which I think is huge because my wife doesn't like to go to the races so much because she says, you only can see you for 3 minutes.
Yeah.
With this, sometimes you do have to have a little bit of means of transportation to get from point A to point B, but if you do, well, now you can get to the backside of the property. You can see 4 different points of interest every lap.
Yeah.
And get to see your rider more often, which is it's cool for the spectator. It's cool for the rider.
Yeah.
My goodness, when I see someone off in the back section, I'm like, woohoo!
Yeah, exactly.
It's so draining to just not see anybody for a whole race, and then you see them for a few minutes or for a few seconds at the scoring trailer, and then you go back out and you don't see anybody. But when you see people at points of interest, you're like, well, maybe I'm going to hit that hill a little bit differently.
Yeah.
It's cool. It's cool for you. It's cool for the rider. It's cool for the spectator. It's a big win.
Yeah.
And I know that takes a lot extra because sometimes you're basically cutting an extra trail.
There were several properties we did. Yeah. And, we weren't able to have that at every event, but the properties that allow it, we really want to because it goes back to making something for everyone, entertaining everyone there. It's a race, but to me, it's putting on a show. We want to put on a good show for everyone. And so, it comes down to the safety factor too for me of wanting to make sure that our spectators are contained and they're where they're supposed to be and not wandering off on different parts of the course and stuff. So it was a huge hit this year. Round 1, for instance, you can see if you have a pit vehicle and you stay on the pit trail, On the spectator trail, you can see about 60 to 70% of the course.
That's
because
awesome.
it runs along parallel with the spectator course. It's pretty awesome in that way, you know. So yeah, spectator trail was a huge hit, something that I think a lot of people enjoyed whenever it was available, and we plan to add a lot more of that this year.
Yeah. It's just little nitpicky things too, or not nitpicky, I shouldn't say, I don't know if that's the right term for this, but little things that you can pick apart. Like, that was a good thing. Like, even the way that sometimes your spectator trail would cross another trail. From the very first time I saw it, I'm like, why have we never done this before? Like, you would have like this chicane built into, like, everybody has to slow down. You do not know that you're about to have an intersection.
Yeah.
Like, everybody knows the track itself is getting slowed way down to cross that section. The intersection is getting slowed down to cross the section. Everybody knows what's going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, there's always going to be that little bit of a risk, but having that mitigated is huge, because you still want to. You don't want to be like, okay, no pit vehicles, no nothing. Like, pit riding is a different thing, but like, you can't get you out on the backside. It's too dangerous, which is the way a lot of things are going, because things happen. But like, being able to mitigate those risks, I heard multiple people be like, oh man, that chicane, great idea, because it's sketchy when you're going through a field wide open and you know that there's an area where people kind of go through, and you're out in the backside. There's no reasonable expectation for someone to be there manning it.
Yeah.
You know, like, I've almost hit people that are walking or whatever before. They don't realize they're going across the track. But like, when you have those clearly marked things and like, hey, there's a mode trail, we expect to stay on this thing, it's a win for everybody.
No, I appreciate that. And I take that very, I don't take that lightly at all. It's one of the big things. I've seen a lot of scary stuff happen at different events other than ours. And, as a promoter, it's our worst nightmare to see, an accident involving a spectator and a racer. And so, if we can overcome that with another 30 minutes of work of pounding a couple extra T-posts and making a chicane to where, as the saying goes, speed kills, we want to minimize that speed to where if there ever was an accident, that it's at very low speed, and hopefully both parties walk away safe. And so, yeah, something for sure. I'm glad people are picking up on that. That's one of the many things that we really try to make sure we're attentive to. And, ultimately it's the racer safety that we're trying to keep in mind.
Tell me a little bit about the pro pits. Like, I always thought that was a really cool feature, especially when some of them were laid out. You're kind of always, I'm babbling here. You're kind of always at the mercy of the land.
Yep.
But some of them were laid out in a way like that was actually a big value add for me as a racer, even if I'm not pitting. I'm like, that was just cool.
Yeah.
To like, the one that I'm thinking of particularly, I can't remember the round that I won, but like you go down, you come back,
rescheduled.
And then you go back, and then the pit was on the right side.
Yeah.
Like, I always loved it when you would come down long ways and then go back up, and then the pit was on the right. There were several of them like that. So, and I can cut this part out if you don't want to advertise this part, but as a PM bike racer who needs a pit, having a pit area, and we branded it Pro Pits, but is that kind of okay for anybody?
It's okay for anybody to be in it. We're modeling after GNCC in that way. One of the factors of a 2-hour race that to me is exciting from a racer's point of view is the pit strategy that goes into it. You can really make or break your race depending on when you pit, how quick your pit is. And so really what we wanted to do is we wanted to take that and almost turn it into a show in a way to where spectators that are following the race can go over there and watch that feature of the race, because it's important. I mean, it's, we saw several, in fact, at 111 Ranch, that race was majorly, and Bear rode phenomenal, stayed right on them the whole race. His strategy was slightly different than the other guys that were running up front. And what that allowed for him to do was to take over the lead right there. And there was quite a few spectators at that point. So it made it pretty, cool in that way. So the whole idea behind Pro Pits, even though it's for all of PM bike riders that want to join it and quad riders that want to join it, is really, it's just adding to the show is what we're wanting to do. And we're wanting to cater to our racers in a way that maybe they don't see in other places. You know, everybody always is looking for the place to put their gas jug. We want to make it very obvious for you. Hey, your gas jug can go here, and make it easy, you know, for family members, for pit crews. I think that overall it's a win for everybody in that way. And don't get me wrong, it's hard to find the right spot at every race. There was a couple races where it was not ideal, you know, and that we're at the mercy of the land, so to speak, for that. But overall, I would say it was a huge hit.
Yeah, which at the beginning, I think just the way it was branded, it was like I kind of felt like I was like doing something wrong by using it, you know. I'm like,
we might change it to PM race pits, because now we have the reason I did that is because the quads were just adult quad race, but now we have an AM and a PM quad race. So we might revisit that to PM pits,
because I think it's a value add, like you said. It gives people a spectator, but also if everyone's kind of pitting in the same area, that is a bit safer in my thought, you know, to where you don't have someone pulling off kind of on the side of the trail to do their pit there, whether that works better for them or not. But then, like you said, it has a story there. And if Rodney's kind of tuned in to like, hey, your overall guy, he hasn't pitted yet. He's going to have to pit soon, and he's got a guy right on his tail that has just pitted. So we're fixing to watch a lead change potentially. Keep your eye out. He needs to gap this guy by 15 seconds or he's going to get...
That's exactly right. And if you notice towards the end of the season, we started placing that pro pits right after the finish line and near the podium and where the speakers and sound equipment are. Not only that way race crews can tune in to what's going on, you know, they can listen on the radio too. We have it broadcasted on the radio throughout the weekend, but it just adds to the show because ultimately everybody's staying in tune with what's going on. It's immediately after scoring, which is where everybody's typically congregated and hanging out. And so, yeah, there's a factor to it where we you know, dirt bikes and quads, you know, off-road racing, it's cool. And it deserves the light that we're trying to give it, you know, of building it up to be what it is. And if you look at GNCC from an early level, they started at a grassroots level and they began to put this production level in that really made it what it is today, that we all over here on the Midwest and West Coast look at it in awe, you know? And a lot of those things are what we're trying to add, you know, to bring that same level of a national feel and the production and the show of things here locally.
Yeah, but you don't have to drive 20 hours to get
exactly. That's the goal of it.
And we've seen an incredible level of racers come up for this, you know. Dude, Hunter Smith is national level. I mean, he comes up here and gives the guys a show, and it's awesome to watch. You know, in the past, you might get occasionally somebody would come up for a race, but from the get-go, I mean, the Mahakas.
Those boys are fast.
Oh, buddy.
Morgan won the championship on the bike side, and then, you know, you got Dylan Youngblood, who's a very fast local quad racer, but he had more competition than he's ever had this year with, you know, Tyle Jones.
He's stoked about that.
Yeah, Tyle Jones coming in, and that was cool to see. You know, the battles that all of the guys had, and like I said, the show's not all about the pros, right? We see battles in every class, and we care about the battles in every class, but it's cool to see from the top down, you know, and see these riders that are coming in that definitely are big names. I mean, we've got a lot of exciting things, and you know, we've got the National Enduro coming to Oklahoma this year, you know, which is not our race. I'm happy to promote the National Enduro Series, but I think that there's a potential that we could see some GNCC guys show up to our race because we have one on both weekends of that. So you don't know who might show up. You know, we might get some XC1, XC2 guys out of it, and that's kind of the direction we want to continue to grow towards, is seeing that.
That'd be cool. And I mean, we've had this conversation even in this podcast. Just like when you raise that level, everybody else kind of goes up to that too. Rising tide floats all ships. You know? So I think that's just such a good thing to not to be your primary focus, because I do want, you know, someone who's got a bike 3 months ago to come out and try racing. And that's where having the practice in the afternoon is big.
It helps.
Because you know, for me growing up, which nowadays I'm a 1 lap, maybe 2 laps, kind of a slow one, fast one, and then I'm not going to practice anymore. Like, I got to save some energy. I'm just getting old enough where I need to focus on energy. But back then, dude, you go do 6 laps on Saturday and have a blast doing it. And
with
then
all
the
your
next day you
buddies.
go ride.
Yeah,
you know? Because you get to ride with your buddies. You get to stop, hang out. You get to ride with people you wouldn't normally get to ride with. You know, you can wait up a second, catch up to that, you know, a guy that's, you know,
trail him for a few minutes.
Try to trail him for a second. And then, or just make that relationship with them. Like, hey, is it okay if I follow you? Which is totally cool.
Yeah,
like if anybody you guys like say, hey, can I just follow you around, or can you ride with me real quick?
Yeah.
And maybe point out something that maybe I could do better. Like, I'm stoked to do that. And I think that a lot of riders would be.
Yeah.
Now, I do need to personally go out there and probably put down a quick lap.
Yeah.
But I do the same thing with other people. Like, if there's someone faster than me, I want to toe off of them and see how I can catch up that pace too. So people have done it for me. I would do it for them. Like, it's a win-win. And having the opportunity to do that, whether practice beats up the track or not, it does. I kind of go back and forth both ways. But it's a beneficial thing, especially if you're a new rider. And I want to see that. I want to see that being utilized. I think that grows our sport. So through and through, let's focus on the top guys. Let's focus on the bottom guys. Let's focus on everybody in between, guys and gals. We've had some killer turnouts for the female class.
Yeah. They the women's expert thing is pretty cool. Originally we combined that with row 1 because I was a little afraid that there might be times where we have too low of a turnout and there's one or none on that front row. So we originally combined them. That's what IXCR does and several other series. And quickly we had this array of ladies showing up that were very fast, and they all came to me and they were like, will you please give us our own row? And I'm like, absolutely. That's something that we were excited to add. And so now ladies are leading the way for the AM bike race, and we saw Hannah Pike and several other ladies win the overall or be up at least in the top 3 on the podium on the trailer there in the overall. So that's an exciting thing too, to see all levels, everybody being involved with it.
That's got to trickle down to the little girls that are racing skates.
Exactly, yeah. And I mean, that's, we saw several young girls, on the podium in the 50cc classes. And man, it's just cool to see for everybody. And I like what you're saying, to your point, for new racers, as far as etiquette goes, utilize that practice on Saturday to talk to anybody. I mean, I can tell you there's not hardly anybody that would not be happy to share some information with you or a piece of advice or allow you to trail on to them. They might not give you a full coaching session, but nonetheless, you're welcome to always tag along with people. And we encourage that. This is a sport that people love and they love sharing it with others. And so it's a great opportunity.
A little bit of a caveat here. If we're talking about racer etiquette, practice etiquette, if it's during a race and you don't want to pull off to the side, that's kind of your own choice. If it's during practice,
please move over.
just move over. I'm going to be extra patient because it's practice, but I also don't want to follow you for 3 miles.
Yeah.
I accidentally ran over a kid this year.
Oh no.
I have it on video. I didn't put it in my stuff because I feel really bad about it. I was going real slow.
Yeah.
Just giving him space or whatever, and he clips a tree and goes down right in front of me, and I don't have time we're not going very fast at all, but he clips a tree and I'm off guard, he's off guard, and I just fall right on top of him. I'm so sorry, buddy. Hopefully you're not watching this, but if you are, I am genuinely sorry, and I hope I'm not a jerk for doing that, but
hey, it happens sometimes.
It happens. We all live and learn. But no, I am excited about all this stuff.
Yeah, and speaking of practice, that's another thing for this next year, at least on the bike side, that we're adding is we're doing a completely separate Pee-wee track. So we're opening Pee-wee practice up from noon to basically 6 or so on Saturdays, which is a big deal for 50s and 65s. They have a completely separate track away from big bikes. They get to practice while the adult quads are racing over here. They don't tie together at all. That's going to be really nice for them. And then on the bikes, on the big bike side, having that several hours of practice is just huge for everybody. So we are going to do a $5 fee for that for practice this year. If you come up and just practice and don't race with us, it's $20. And the reason behind that is we're not trying to nickel and dime people, but at the end of the day, there's more work being done. I'm going to go out in a skid steer at night and clean up a lot of the spots that need to be cleaned up.
So you're saying if you show up on Saturday,
if you show up on Saturday, it costs you $5 to practice for bikes. So
that's a deal. Where else are you going to ride for $5 unless it's private land?
And that helps towards the skid steer fees, of renting a skid steer. And so that fee is going right back into the betterment of the race for the racers. And so, $5 if you're going to show up and race with us in the weekend. If you're going to practice on Saturday, this is just for bike guys. Quads are remaining the same. They only get that hour in the morning. So, but for that extended practice period, we feel that it's okay to charge that $5 fee. If you're just coming to practice with us, you're more than welcome to, even if you're not racing. But we will, be $20 fee for that if you don't choose to come back and race. So just that way we make sure that we can keep our checks as good as we can for guys. We're not raising any of our fees or anything like that else. So we're trying to keep things as reasonable as we can for our racers while continuing to increase the fun that they have.
Yeah. So. And even if I'm not racing, like, that's one of the beauties of a series or a club or whatever. Even if you're not racing, it's just the opportunity to go see different tracks.
Yeah.
I know every area has their own public riding area that you can pay for and go ride. And some of them are better than others ones. Like you got Stillwater 500 is awesome. You've got Draper. You've got these various places that you can go out there and ride. But after a while, you kind of get tired of it.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they get maintained better than others, but or they're just beat up, But getting to go race or ride a marked racetracks, one direction with a lot of people is fun to me.
Yeah.
Because just being someplace where there's other riders it's a different feel, it's a different vibe, it's a lot of fun getting to do that. So even if you're not racing, my dad's probably a good prime example of this.
Yeah.
Like he doesn't necessarily want to go out there and race, but he missed having time to go out there and ride. And I missed having time to go out there and ride with him, because like it's fun to just go do a lap, even if you got to slow up just a second or just ride. He's not as slow as he thinks he is. But just getting to go ride with him, that's a fun bonding experience that we've done for 20 years now.
Yeah.
But not getting to do that because I've only got an hour to do this thing. I got to go out there and do it.
Yeah.
When you have 3 hours, you can just take a break, chill out, go do a lap at the beginning, or wait an hour, let the track get burned in, and then go do a lap where it's more pleasurable.
Yep.
So that's cool to be able to do that. I'm looking forward to that for sure.
Absolutely. It'll be good.
So what are some of your, I guess, like your measures of success? What are kind of your standards of success? What are you looking at?
Well, there's several different categories that could fall in, right? Like, from the racer standpoint, so to speak, is, racer numbers is pretty obvious. We want to see that continue to grow. And obviously we care deeply about people enjoying the events that we have. And so the feedback that we receive from them is, a success as well, as long as it's positive feedback, and there's ways we can improve whenever we receive constructive criticism, right? But that's a big way. And then for me personally, is just efficiency, to be honest. Like I shared earlier with the equipment changes that we're making, cutting it down from 5 trips to 2, things like that. That's a measure of success because that adds longevity to me being able to continue this, it was one of the questions I believe you asked last year was like, what happens if you burn out quick, right? Adding these ways, because it's not my only job. My wife works a different full-time job and I have another job too, on top of this with field ministry. And so adding these ways that we can continue to become more efficient. And honestly, a lot of that's just on the back end with our staff, with me, and just really kind of balancing that act of all of it. But I would say the biggest thing, right now that we're heavily focused on as far as success is increasing those racer numbers. That's definitely one of the biggest measures.
Yeah, for sure. What are some of the things that I know we kind of talked about expansion and this and that. What are some of the things that you want to see? I mean, actually just take that and run with it.
Yeah, no, that's good. I mean, I don't want to stick my foot in my mouth here. My vision for this is, and it is heavily dependent on the racers following it, right? We're not going to blindly do something that the racers are not going to enjoy or want to follow, right? Because without the racers, this doesn't exist. I want this to be the GNCC of the Great Plains region, and I know it's going to be smaller. There's not as many people in the Great Plains region as there is out east, but I want to see this being a multi-state, highly competitive, where it's sought after to come to. You have GNCC on the East Coast that we talk about. You have Works on the West Coast, but there's really nothing in our region. And, I feel that we have the resources and the tools to pull something like that together. I believe that it's going to take a little bit of a mind shift and change in mentality from our racers to understand that, hey, if a race isn't within an hour and a half of you, that's okay. You know, you can drive two more hours, you know, expand your distance maybe to 5 hours. And that's something that I can't tell people to do, right? Like they have to come up with that on their own. So a lot of my vision for that is I say that carefully because I don't want to scare people into thinking that we're just going to leave them, right?
Yeah.
Oklahoma is always the main focus for us, but we want to expand this thing to be a regional level series if that's what the racers want.
Yeah.
That's what I want. That's, you know, so I say that with quite a bit of care towards it, you know, of like it could be a touchy subject if racers are not going to be willing to follow that. But, you know, yeah, absolutely. Like we want to see it be, you know, a national level series.
Yeah. And that is a bold statement because I think a lot of people, myself included, don't picture themselves in that arena.
Yep.
You know, like when you're growing slowly and like, yeah, I can make a few trips to Texas, no big deal.
Yep.
But I remember sometimes in the past, like, oh, we're going to have a border battle shootout where we're going to go into Arkansas or something like that. Like, oh, that's a big deal going into another state. Like, it's not that big a deal. It's, if you're looking on the map, it's just as close as some other races.
Crossing the red line.
But I mean, I can feel that hesitance to people. But I think you answered all the questions that somebody would have. Like, well, what does that mean for me? I've always raced locally. Well, that's fine. You can still race locally.
Yeah.
There's still clubs that can race locally. And I think, again, rising tides float all boats. Yeah. Like, those clubs eventually, hopefully we're not, you know, taking away from them. I'm sure there is a little bit of that. But, like, I know that you've done everything that you can to work with them the best that you can, beyond what's reasonable, in my opinion. But, you know, as you progress as a series, you know, like you said, if those people don't want to do that, that's fine.
Yeah, at the end of the day, I mean, like I said, without the racers, we don't exist. And so ultimately, it's going to be a gauge off of what the racers want.
Yeah.
You know, we definitely are going to have sway in the direction because I feel like we know where we want to go, right? But with that being said, it will always be, you know, and I have people, not to be prideful, I keep a lot closer watch on stuff than people think. You know, like I'm really big into the analytics of things and just watching the data and you know, looking at the distance from different places. And so there's no doubt I'm not the smartest guy on earth, but I do pay close attention to that stuff. And it's something that we just are going to continue to monitor. And, you know, to me, that's what excites me, right? We'll still be heavily in Oklahoma if we go that direction. And to me, you know, the ideal situation of accommodating that is that we have largely Oklahoma racers with us, and we catch a lot of these other series throughout the year where we coordinate with other series, and you know, those racers are able to come in and join us, and we do kind of border battles in different states, and they're spread out throughout the year to where we're not going, you know, to Missouri and then all the way down to Texas. Well, we'll throw it in the middle. You know, we'll do an Oklahoma, Texas, and then swap it out, you know, and so yeah, that's kind of the direction we really want to go with it, you know, and see it expand. And the whole goal is for the racers, you know. Whenever we lived over on the East Coast and did the GNCCs, it would baffle me anytime I'd turn around and look behind me at, you know, Wild Boar, one of these races way over on the East Coast, and see Oklahoma guys walking up to me, you know, and I'm like, what in the world did you do just driving 26 hours over here? We want to bring that here. They're, you know, like we want them to have that in their backyard. And I, you know, the whole side of it of like not seeing yourself as a national level racer. I can tell you guys what makes GNCC so cool is it's the fact that you have both in one place. It's so large because you have people that literally heard about the race, that live 30 minutes down the road, that don't run a series, that pulled the bike out of the barn and came down there and raced. And they're the ones putting on the show, for being honest, you know, because they're the ones that are taking advantage of the opportunity of what's local to them, and it's exciting and it's new. And so I do feel that even though we want to build this up to be something professional and a national level event, I think it can be for everyone still.
Yeah. And what you just said kind of unlocked a little piece in my mind too, is like, just because GNCC or these really large organizations, they have the Caleb Russells, doesn't mean they don't have Joe Blow back in the beginner class. You know, they still have those guys. Maybe it's a little bit harder to fathom if you're a beginner to travel 16 hours to go race a beginner class, but they're hooking you in because of the production value,
Yeah.
it's the prestige of it. They have the Caleb Russell. That's an interesting thing. But yeah, they've got a different race. They've got a different class for everybody. It's not like it changes just because it goes across the border.
Yeah.
Like, it's still the same field.
Absolutely.
Except now maybe we're going to have a full gate,
Exactly.
Not that just because you're traveling around is going to give you more people, but, eventually as a club progresses
Exactly.
and we have, dude, racing for 22nd place out of 30 guys, but gritting my teeth to do it, that sounds like a good time.
It actually is. And I've been in that situation. And I know that sounds crazy to say, but it to me, it's a lot more fun than racing with 3 guys and knowing you're going to be on the podium. Like, I don't know. That's where the heart of this is at, really, is like, we want to see good competition everywhere. And so. Yeah.
And dude, I've met so many good people in Oklahoma. And then this year I've met so many good people from Texas.
Yeah.
And then I'm just excited to meet some new people because those guys are so cool. Like, I've just walked up to them. Now, granted, I'd have a video camera in my hand, so they're kind of like, okay,
on their best behavior
or whatever.
Yeah.
Like, some really cool people that I've met this year that I otherwise wouldn't have gotten to meet. I've seen their names on some, if I go to a special event somewhere, I'm like, I see their name, but I don't know who it is, afraid to approach them. But they're just as cool as the guy that you've known for 20 years.
Yeah. Racers are racers, man. And that's the cool part. Like, no matter where you go, it was one of the blessings of working with Fuel Ministry that was so cool is I had to go to a lot of different series, a lot of different events. And there's always that, like, you pull in, people don't know who you are, but you just start talking to them before you know it. It's like, well, you're just like my buddies over here, and so we really want to bring that to this area because there is a lot of racers. If you look at all the states around here, there's a ton of racers around here. But there's not a place for everyone to congregate. And there's a pride factor with that too, like who's the best, like what state and whatnot. So yeah, lots of things there that I think will hopefully add value to this region for racers.
And just, scale it back a little bit. Like, cross country is so unique.
It is.
In motorsports, and maybe motorsports as a whole is unique like this, but like cross country in its own, more grassroots. Everybody you meet is super friendly.
Yeah.
Like, you can walk in someone's pit and just hang out.
Yeah.
But I've got 2 friends in my mind right now that are moto guys that are like, yeah, I don't know if moto's for me.
Yeah.
I've heard some great things. Maybe they've seen some of my videos or whatever. Like, I want to go try that.
Yeah.
And I know one of them particularly, he's like committed to going out and racing the full series this year.
Nice.
Like, he's a moto guy.
Nice. That's awesome.
Had never, I think we'll go ride some trails here in February or something like that. Just check it out. But like, getting some of those guys come over but the first time a moto guy comes in and hangs out at a cross country race, like, oh, these guys are cool, But not to put the moto down. And if you're a moto person, it's not like that at a track.
Yeah.
I've done some of the FCA motocross stuff, and when I go to the motocross tracks, it's like, man, I mean, not that there's not good people there, but the vibe is different.
It's a lot more serious, for sure.
Yeah.
And it's a lot more rushed, typically, because you've got races back to back to back. And
Short race,
fast, lots of money, little seat time. And that's not to knock it. Love moto too, but we're in cross country for a reason because we love it, and it's just sweet. It's a lot of fun for everybody.
Yeah, it keeps me coming back. And, if it's the thing that I want my family to be engaged in. I grew up in it, so I'm biased. But like, man, it's taught me so many good lessons in life. I've met so many great people. Like, my past couple of jobs that I've had were because of people and contacts that I've met from racing motorcycles. And by the way, I'm out of work right now, so if somebody would like to hire me for something, I'm very much a Swiss Army knife. I can do about anything.
He is for sure.
But yeah, I mean, cross country it's cool. It's unique. I wish more people would try it. I wish people would reactivate that, maybe used to try it and got burnt by something or other.
And there is, thankfully. That's the cool part. I'm seeing several names come up on that list that even I raced with as a kid that haven't raced in years. And that's cool to me to see a lot of people that maybe took a break because of, getting married, having kids, or maybe even frustrations from other series that are revisiting it. That's cool.
Mm-hmm. What, not to put you in hot water or anything, and don't say anything that you don't feel comfortable saying, but like, what has your reception been like with other series?
We've had a lot of great reception from surrounding series outside of Oklahoma. But, it's the elephant in the room, right? There's stuff that takes place that is frustrating for me, coming in and trying to work together with, series at different levels. And, my standpoint on it is we want to continue to remain humble and teachable. And we don't want anybody to, see us as like we know everything. We're here for the racers. We're here to add value to the racers at the end of the day. Mm-hmm. And yeah, there's definitely some things throughout the season, if I'm being perfectly honest, that maybe were the biggest challenges, of communication with these other series and working with them. But at the end of the day, we have to chalk it up that we can only control what we can control. And we're going to stay focused on our vision of putting together professionally ran, professionally organized, and timely events that benefit our racers. And without the racers, we're nothing, And so once again, it all goes back to the racers as far as, our mindset with the way that we handle situations with other series as well. As we want to give everybody an opportunity. And so, yeah, definitely, it's a challenge. There's no doubt. And we hope that one day that those things are those fences are mended a little bit and that we can see eye to eye and work together on things a little bit more. But I think growth is a good thing. And I think that growth is hard sometimes too. And it creates challenges and, obstacles that have to be worked through.
Mm-hmm. Well said. Tell me about your leadership, your staff, the roles that they play in making all this come together. Because I know other series are like more modeled like what you're doing.
Yeah.
But what we're used to is not like that. But I know that you've got some people on your team that are just like absolutely killing it. You know?
Yeah. That I get really excited talking about my staff, because my staff, if it's not for them, I know it sounds cliche, but if it's not for my staff, this doesn't go as smooth as it goes. Starting from the top with my wife, you got to start there. She works her butt off all week long at her normal job. She's a loan officer, and she shows up Friday nights, and we get to work on things. And she does such a good job at being attention to detail, with the small things. A lot of racers, you might not really know why she's running around with a clipboard in her hand on the starting line, checking numbers and maybe getting you a new helmet sticker or whatever. But that makes things roll so much smoother with the scoring side of things, where your results are posted instantly after the race. And so just different dynamics like that. We've got Travis Grooms, has been heavily involved with SCA and now Fuel Ministry too. And known Travis my whole life, basically, my whole racing life, it seems like. And, just a phenomenal friend, somebody that I can trust dearly with, doing the gate changes and having the track set up the way it needs to be, as far as, changing it from youth to peewee or adult and whatnot. And Matt Fulbright is our race director. He does a great job. A lot of people know him as the cowboy. He's got the cowboy hat and the big old handlebar mustache. So, yeah, and the list goes on and on. I mean, Grayson, my brother, there was not a race this year that I remember that he didn't have results posted and points posted before people were leaving the property at the end of the day, And so I remember one racer coming up and saying like, yeah, I already checked points, and he was still wearing his gear, It's like points were posted, It's like, that's crazy, that's, it's cool to see a team that is all on the same path and sees the same vision so clearly. And I could go on and on about every one of them, but at the end of the day, our team is wouldn't trade them for anything. They're awesome.
Yeah.
So, and we've got some great mentors, or I have some great mentors in my life that have just really poured into me, invested in me, that, all business owners for themselves. And, they kind of understand, this world because they are racers themselves. And so, yeah, man, just blessed with the crew that we have. Like, it's awesome to see, a team working all for one vision, all for one goal. And, our what we always do a prayer before we start each day together. And, our goal is always that racers leave there having fun and safe, but ultimately that they see, Christ in the midst of being there at a race, like we want them to see the love of Jesus through their life, and my team does that really well. By just making sure that every dollar that these people spend with us is well worth their time and worth their money, and that we treat them as the customer that they are to us, and not just as a person or a racer. So, our saying is, float like ducks on water. Looks smooth on top, but the feet can go crazy underneath. Keep it underneath, and keep the show going up above.
What kind of wrapping up here? What would you say your highlight was for 2025 season?
So the first flag throw of the season and the last one was probably like the first thing that comes to mind to me, of just like instant just rushes into my head, because we had a lot of stuff leading up to the first race with the weather and whatnot, and just chaos. And the first flag was just, I don't know, it's kind of emotional, whenever you put in all the work ahead of time. And then at the last one, I had my wife and Matt standing there beside me, near the first turn. And, I was just in the zone and wasn't really thinking, trying to get the last race taken off for the day. But man, those two flag throws, there's so much that happened between, but they feel like they were like one day apart, and like I kind of have goosebumps thinking about it. And it sounds silly, but that to me is one of the biggest things that stands out from the season, of just like that. And then, watching racers pull through the gate, I can be sitting off in the distance and like see where racers are coming in at. Whenever you've been at a property all week long, working on it, preparing it, spending the time, spending the money in preparation for things, and you see people pulling in the gate, for me, it's personal.
It's like a confirmation.
It's a confirmation, because you don't know who's going to show up. And so, those are kind of two of the biggest points of the season where I was just like, this really burned in my memory of like, pivotal points, of just good memories.
Yeah. Final thoughts heading into the 2026 season?
I say I overuse the word, but I'm so excited.
Yeah.
I mean, I hope you guys can tell from this today that, there's a lot of things that we were changing. A lot of things are staying the same, right? Like a lot of good things, but excited just for another year of stacking blocks and just, getting another year notched under our belt, and continuing to grow and see where this goes. I think that I hope that we have a lot more racers continue to come check out what we've got going on, and, begin to see the vision that we have for it and latch on.
Yeah, man. Where can people find you?
Yeah, people can follow us on Facebook as our main communication source, Great Plains Cross Country. And then we've also got GreatPlainsXC.com for our website. Those are kind of our two main channels. We've got Great Plains _XC for our Instagram. And then got a bit of a YouTube channel right now where we post our pre-race videos, I guess you could say, for the track. So all those resources are good ways to keep up with us.
Right on, man. We should do this again sometime.
I love it.
Get into next year.
Yeah, we got to. It's awesome. Thank you for having me on. I appreciate it. And it's cool, to come back and revisit this after a year. And dude, love what you're doing too. Like with the race recaps that you have after the weekends, and not only showing your race, but being able to get a small glimpse into everybody else's. The cool part to me is whenever we do those collaborations on Instagram and we're able to share that too. It's cool to see the kids get on there and, commenting like,
that was me.
That's me, like, and I think people are beginning to look forward to that kind of stuff. So yeah, keep doing what you're doing here. I love seeing, being a part of the podcast, but also seeing, some of the other content that you have out. It helps the sport. It helps, the state of Oklahoma's racing community, and yeah, exciting. So
yeah,
keep it up.
Yeah. Thanks for having you on.
Absolutely. Thanks, man.
Well, if you liked what you saw here today, keep it.
Hey, I thought that's where you're going with. I'm good with it. Go for it.
No, keep up with Chasing Roost. Remember to like and subscribe, and stay tuned for what we got 2026 season. Do my best to stay on top of it this year. I'm looking forward to the schedule changes. Hopefully I'll be able to get out and get a little more footage. Probably get something of the quads. I was real bad. I didn't get anything this year. I got a couple clips of the preseason race, and that was all. But hopefully we get a little bit of something for you guys. A little more stuff for the kids. But keep watching. Thanks for all the support. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon.